Maya Johnson adjusted her blazer for the third time as she walked through the glass doors of Sterling Financial Group. The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble floor, but Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. She had been working at this prestigious company for 2 years now, and every day felt like walking through a minefield. The elevator ride to the 15th floor seemed longer than usual. Maya clutched her coffee cup tighter, watching the numbers climb. She had prepared extensively for today's quarterly presentation, staying up until midnight perfecting every slide, every statistic, every transition. Her supervisor, Mr. Harrison, had specifically requested that she handle this presentation for the board members. It was supposed to be her moment to shine. When the elevator doors opened, Maya stepped into the familiar chaos of her department. The marketing floor buzzed with activity, but she noticed how conversations seemed to quiet as she passed. She had grown used to the subtle looks, the way some colleagues would stop talking when she approached, the comments that felt like paper cuts to her confidence. Maya reached her desk and set down her coffee, immediately diving into her presentation notes one last time. Her colleague Sarah approached, offering a warm smile that felt genuine in a sea of professional facades. "Ready for the big presentation?" Sarah asked, perching on the edge of Maya's desk. "As ready as I'll ever be," Maya replied, though her stomach was doing flips. "I just hope they see the value in the diversity marketing campaign I've been developing." Sarah nodded encouragingly. "Your ideas are brilliant, Maya. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise." The morning flew by in a blur of last-minute preparations. Maya printed extra copies of her presentation materials, double-checked all her statistics, and practiced her opening lines in the mirror of the women's restroom. She had worked harder than most people in this building, she knew that. Her MBA from Northwestern, her previous experience at 2 other marketing firms, her innovative ideas that had already increased client engagement by 30%. None of it seemed to matter when she walked into certain rooms. At 2 p.m. sharp, Maya gathered her materials and headed to Conference Room A. The boardroom was intimidating with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a massive mahogany table, and leather chairs that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Board members were already filing in, most of them older white men in expensive suits, along with a few women who barely acknowledged Maya's presence. Mr. Harrison, a thin man with graying temples and an perpetual frown, gestured for Maya to set up at the front of the room. "Remember, keep it concise," he said curtly. "These people don't have all day." Maya nodded, connecting her laptop to the presentation system. She had given dozens of presentations before, but something about today felt different. The energy in the room was cold, almost hostile. She took a deep breath and launched into her carefully prepared introduction. "Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maya Johnson from the marketing department, and I'm excited to share our Q3 results and our innovative new diversity marketing initiative." She clicked to her first slide, which showed impressive growth numbers. "As you can see, our targeted campaigns have resulted in a 28% increase in customer engagement and a 15% boost in new client acquisition." Maya felt confident as she moved through her data, explaining how her team had identified underserved market segments and developed campaigns that resonated with diverse audiences. The numbers were solid, the strategy was sound, and the results spoke for themselves. But as she continued, Maya noticed something troubling. Several board members were checking their phones. One was openly reading what appeared to be unrelated documents, and another was having a whispered conversation with his neighbor. Mr. Harrison kept glancing at his watch with increasing frequency. When Maya reached the section about her diversity initiative, a comprehensive plan to reach minority communities and showcase the company's commitment to inclusion, the room's energy shifted noticeably. She could feel the skepticism radiating from several corners of the table. "Ms. Johnson," interrupted board member Richard Blackwood, a man known for his blunt commentary, "these diversity campaigns, are they really necessary?" Aren't we just pandering to political correctness here? Maya felt her cheeks warm, but she maintained her professional composure. Actually, Mr. Blackwood, the research shows that diverse marketing campaigns don't just serve underrepresented communities, they increase brand loyalty across all demographics. Companies with inclusive marketing see an average revenue increase of, but what's the real return on investment? Another board member chimed in. It seems like we're spending a lot of money to chase customers who might not even have the purchasing power we're looking for. The comment hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Maya felt her heart racing, but she pressed on, pulling up additional slides that clearly showed the purchasing power and brand loyalty of diverse market segments. The data was irrefutable, but she could see in their faces that facts weren't going to change minds that were already made up. What happened next would replay in Maya's mind for years to come. As she was explaining a particularly successful campaign that had resonated with young African-American professionals, board member Patricia Wessel, a woman Maya had hoped might be an ally, cut her off mid-sentence. "I have to ask, Ms. Johnson," Patricia said with a condescending smile, "aren't you a little too personally invested in this? It's natural that you'd want to advocate for your own community, but we need to think about what's best for the company overall, not just what makes certain groups feel included." The room fell silent. Maya felt as though she had been slapped. The implication was clear, that her expertise, her research, her proven results were all invalid because of the color of her skin. That her professional judgment was compromised by personal bias, while the all-white leadership team was somehow neutral and objective. Maya started, but her voice caught. She had prepared for technical questions, for budget concerns, for implementation challenges. She had not prepared to have her professionalism questioned because of her race. Mr. Harrison jumped in, but not to defend her. "What Patricia is saying," he said, his voice carrying a tone of finality, "is that we need to be strategic about where we allocate our resources. Perhaps we should table this diversity initiative for now and focus on our core demographics." Maya looked around the room, searching for a single supportive face, someone who would speak up for the merit of her work, but she found only averted gazes and uncomfortable silence. Sarah wasn't here. This was a board-level meeting. Maya was completely alone. "But the data clearly shows—" Maya tried once more. "I think we've heard enough," Richard Blackwood said dismissively. "Thank you for your perspective, Miss Geke Johnson. Harrison, let's move on to the next agenda item." Maya stood there for a moment, her presentation only half finished, her innovative ideas dismissed without proper consideration. She felt humiliated, diminished, reduced to nothing more than her race in a room full of people who held her career in their hands. Her hands shook slightly as she gathered her materials, the silence in the room deafening. As she packed up her laptop, Maya heard Patricia whisper to the person next to her, "I just think we need to be realistic about who our real customers are." The words felt like another blow. Maya had worked tirelessly to prove herself in this industry, to show that her ideas had value, that her perspective brought something meaningful to the table. But in this moment, she realized that for some people, she would never be seen as anything more than an outsider trying to push an agenda. Maya walked toward the door, her head held high despite the shame burning in her chest. As she reached for the handle, she heard Mr. Harrison call out, "Oh, and Maya, in the future, let's stick to presentations that focus on our established market strategies." She nodded without turning around, not trusting her voice to remain steady. The hallway outside the conference room felt like a sanctuary, but Maya knew she couldn't break down here. Not where people could see, not where it would confirm what some of them already believed about her. Maya made it to the elevator before the tears started. As the doors closed and she began her descent, she pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. She needed to hear a friendly voice, someone who would remind her of her worth when the world seemed determined to diminish it. She dialed her husband's number, but it went straight to voicemail. David was probably in meetings. He had mentioned something about a big day at his new job. Maya left a brief message, trying to keep the hurt out of her voice. "Hey, honey, just wanted to hear your voice. Call me when you get a chance. Love you." Maya spent the rest of the afternoon at her desk, mechanically responding to emails and updating spreadsheets, but her mind kept replaying the humiliation in that conference room. Every time someone walked by her desk, she wondered if they had heard about what happened, if word was already spreading through the office gossip network. By 5 p.m., Maya felt emotionally drained. She packed up her things, said goodbye to Sarah, who gave her a concerned look, and headed for the parking garage. As she drove home through the city traffic, Maya tried to process what had happened and what it meant for her future at Sterling Financial. She had always known that being one of the few black employees in a predominantly white company would come with challenges. But she had believed that excellence would be enough, that hard work and results would speak louder than prejudice. Today had shattered that belief. Maya pulled into the driveway of the modest two-story house she and David had bought 6 months ago. It was their dream home, complete with a small garden and enough space for the family they hoped to start someday. But today, it felt like a refuge from a world that had made it clear she didn't belong. Inside, Maya poured herself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, staring at her phone. She wanted to call her sister, her mother, someone who would understand the complex mix of anger and hurt she was feeling. But she also didn't want to relive the humiliation by talking about it. David's key in the lock made her look up. He walked through the door with a strange expression on his face. Not exactly happy, but not upset either. There was something different about him today, an energy she couldn't quite place. "How was your day?" he asked, loosening his tie as he walked over to kiss her forehead. Maya almost laughed at the question. How could she even begin to explain what her day had been like? How could she tell the man she loved that his wife had been humiliated and dismissed by people who were supposed to value her contributions? "It was challenging," she said finally. "How was yours?" David sat down next to her on the couch, taking her hand in his. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you about my day, and about my new job." Maya turned to face him, noting the serious tone in his voice. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" David squeezed her hand gently. "Nothing's wrong, but I haven't been completely honest with you about where I've been working these past few weeks." Maya felt a flutter of concern. David had started a new position at a financial services company about a month ago, but he had been surprisingly vague about the details. She had attributed it to the confidential nature of high-level business, but now she wondered if there was more to the story. "What do you mean?" she asked. David took a deep breath. "The company I'm working for, it's Sterling Financial Group." Maya stared at him, processing his words. "Sterling Financial? But that's where I work." "I know," David said softly. "And there's something else. I'm not just an employee there, Maya. I'm the new CEO." The wine glass slipped from Maya's hand, but she barely noticed as it shattered on the hardwood floor. Maya sat in stunned silence, staring at David as if he had just told her he was from another planet. The broken wine glass lay forgotten at her feet, dark red liquid seeping into the gaps between the hardwood planks. "CEO," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You're the CEO of Sterling Financial?" David nodded, his expression a mixture of guilt and apprehension. "I wanted to tell you from the beginning, but the board insisted on complete confidentiality during the transition. They didn't want any leaks or speculation that might affect stock prices or employee morale." Maya's mind raced, trying to piece together the timeline. "How long have you known? When did this happen?" "The headhunter approached me 3 months ago," David explained, reaching for her hand, but Maya pulled away. The interviews, the negotiations, the background checks. It all happened very quickly. I was officially offered the position 6 weeks ago, but I couldn't start until all the legal paperwork was finalized. 6 weeks ago, Maya repeated, her voice growing stronger with each word. You've known for 6 weeks that you were going to be my boss and you said nothing? David shifted uncomfortably on the couch. It's not that simple, Maya. You don't report to me directly. You're several levels down the organizational chart. I hoped I could find a way to tell you without it affecting your work. Maya stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, their neighbor was watering his lawn, completely oblivious to the fact that Maya's entire world had just been turned upside down. Affecting my work? She said, turning back to face him. David, do you have any idea what my work has been like? Do you know what happened to me today? David's face grew serious. What happened today? Maya felt a bitter laugh escape her throat. Your board members, the people you now work with, humiliated me in front of everyone. They dismissed my presentation, questioned my professionalism, and basically told me that my ideas don't matter because I'm black. David's expression darkened. What exactly did they say? Maya recounted the entire presentation, from the dismissive attitudes to Patricia Wessel's accusation that she was too personally invested in diversity initiatives. As she spoke, she watched David's jaw tighten and his hands clench into fists. Who was in that meeting? David asked when she finished. Harrison, Blackwood, Wessel, Morrison, Chen, and about 4 others whose names I don't remember, Maya said. Why? What are you going to do about it? David stood up and began pacing the same path Maya had just traced. This is exactly why companies need diversity at the leadership level. These people have been operating in an echo chamber for so long, they don't even recognize their own bias. So you knew this was happening? Maya asked, her voice rising. You knew I was working in a hostile environment and you said nothing? I didn't know specifically about today, David said quickly. But yes, I knew the company had issues with diversity and inclusion. That's actually one of the reasons I took the job. The previous CEO, Robert Sterling, was old school. He retired because the board finally realized they needed fresh leadership to compete in today's market. Maya sank back onto the couch, overwhelmed by the flood of information. I can't believe this is happening. Do you realize how this looks? The only black woman in marketing is married to the CEO. Everyone's going to think I got my job because of nepotism. But that's not true, David protested. You were working at Sterling Financial long before I even applied for this position. You earned your place there. It doesn't matter what's true, Maya said, frustration evident in her voice. What matters is what people think, and now anything I accomplish will be tainted by the assumption that my husband gave it to me. David sat down next to her again, this time leaving some space between them. I understand why you're upset, and I should have found a way to tell you sooner. But Maya, think about what this could mean. For the first time, you'll have someone in leadership who understands your perspective, who values diversity not just as a buzzword but as a real competitive advantage. Maya looked at him skeptically. And how exactly is that going to work? Are you planning to give me special treatment? Because that would be even worse than what's happening now. No special treatment, David said firmly. But fair treatment, equal consideration for your ideas, an end to the kind of dismissive attitude you experienced today. Maya stood up again, needing to move, to think. David, I need to understand something. When you were interviewing for this job, when you were researching the company, did you know I worked there? David hesitated, and that hesitation told Maya everything she needed to know. You did know, she said, her voice flat. You knew from the beginning. The headhunter mentioned that there was a Maya Johnson in the marketing department, David admitted. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. There are a lot of Johnsons in the world, but when I realized it was you should have told me, Maya said. anger and hurt warring in her voice. "You should have given me the choice to decide how to handle this." "You're right," David said quietly. "I made the wrong choice. I was trying to protect both of us, but I see now that I was really just protecting myself. I was afraid you'd ask me to turn down the job." Maya stared at him. "Would that have been so terrible? Choosing your wife's well-being over a job opportunity?" "It's not just a job opportunity, Maya," David said, his voice growing passionate. "This is a chance to make real change. Sterling Financial manages billions of dollars in assets. The decisions made in that building affect thousands of employees and millions of customers. If I can push the company toward more inclusive practices, toward valuing diversity and different perspectives, the impact could be enormous." Maya felt torn between admiration for his vision and frustration at his methods. "But you made that choice without consulting me. You decided that your grand plan was worth more than my right to know what was happening in my own life." David nodded, accepting the criticism. "You're absolutely right. And I'm sorry. I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning." Maya walked to the kitchen and began cleaning up the broken wine glass, needing something to do with her hands while she processed everything. David followed her, grabbing a paper towel to help with the wine stain. "So what happens now?" Maya asked as they worked together to clean the mess. "Do I quit? Do I transfer to another department? Do I pretend I don't know you when we pass in the hallway?" "I don't know," David said honestly. "I was hoping we could figure it out together." Maya rinsed her hands in the sink, staring out the window at the darkening sky. "The hardest part is that I actually love my job, or at least I love the work itself. I love developing marketing strategies, analyzing consumer behavior, creating campaigns that actually connect with people. But the environment—" "Can I tell you something about tomorrow?" David asked. Maya turned to face him. "What about tomorrow?" "I'm officially announcing my position to the entire company. There's going to be an all-hands meeting at 10 a.m. I was planning to use it as an opportunity to lay out my vision for the company's future, including a strong commitment to diversity and inclusion." Maya felt a complex mix of emotions. "So everyone's going to find out that the new CEO is my husband." "They were going to find out eventually," David pointed out. "At least this way, we control the narrative. We can be transparent about the timeline, make it clear that you were hired and have been succeeding based on your own merits." Maya leaned against the kitchen counter, considering his words. "What if this makes everything worse for me? What if people start treating me differently, not because they respect me more, but because they're afraid of you?" "Then we'll deal with that too," David said. "Maya, I know I've handled this badly. I know I should have told you from the beginning, but we can't change that now. What we can do is move forward together and try to make the best of a complicated situation." Maya was quiet for a long moment, weighing her options. She could quit and look for another job, but that would mean starting over at a new company, rebuilding her reputation and professional relationships. She could request a transfer to another department, but that might look like she was running away from the challenges in marketing. Or she could stay and fight for the changes she believed in, with the knowledge that now, finally, someone in leadership might actually listen. "If I stay," Maya said finally, "I need some guarantees." "Name them," David replied immediately. "First, no special treatment. I don't want promotions or opportunities that I haven't earned. If anything, I want to be held to a higher standard, not a lower one." David nodded. "Agreed." "Second, I want the freedom to challenge you professionally. If I think you're making a mistake or missing something important, I need to be able to speak up without worrying about how it affects our marriage." "Absolutely," David said. "In fact, I'm counting on that. One of the biggest problems with executive leadership is that people stop telling you the truth. They tell you what they think you want to hear. I need someone who will be honest with me, even when it's uncomfortable." Maya continued. "Third, I want a clear plan for how we're going to address the diversity and inclusion issues at Sterling Financial. Not just lip service, but real, measurable changes. I've already started working on that, David said. In fact, I'd like to discuss your ideas for the diversity marketing initiative that got shot down today. Because from what you've told me, it sounds like exactly the kind of forward-thinking strategy the company needs. Despite everything, Maya felt a spark of excitement. For 2 years, she had been pushing against closed doors, trying to convince people who didn't want to be convinced that diversity wasn't just the right thing to do. It was good business. The idea that she might finally have someone in power who understood that was almost too good to believe. "This is all assuming I can even show my face at work tomorrow," Maya said. "After what happened in that meeting today, I'm not sure how I'm going to face those people again." David's expression grew determined. "Actually, I think tomorrow might be exactly the right time to face them. When I make my announcement, I want you in that room. I want everyone to see that you're not going anywhere, that you're a valued member of this team, and that the new leadership takes diversity and inclusion seriously." Maya felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with anticipation. "And what about us? How do we navigate being married and working for the same company?" David considered the question carefully. "We'll need to be extra careful about boundaries. We'll need to be transparent about our relationship and make sure that all our professional interactions are documented and above board. And we'll probably need to have some difficult conversations about career paths and potential conflicts of interest." Maya nodded, appreciating his thoughtfulness. "This isn't going to be easy." "No," David agreed. "But nothing worthwhile ever is." "Maya, you've been fighting this battle alone for 2 years. Now you don't have to. We can fight it together." Maya looked at her husband, this man she had married 3 years ago, seeing him in a completely new light. She had fallen in love with his intelligence, his integrity, his passion for justice. Now she was seeing those qualities in action in a way she never had before. "Okay," she said finally, "but if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. No more secrets, no more trying to protect each other from difficult truths. Full transparency from here on out." David smiled for the first time since he had walked through the door. "Full transparency, I promise." Maya took a deep breath, feeling as though she was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump into unknown territory. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, she would walk into Sterling Financial not as the lone voice advocating for diversity, but as the wife of the CEO who was committed to making those changes happen. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Maya had spent her entire career proving that she belonged in rooms where people like her weren't welcome. Tomorrow, she would find out what it felt like to have the power of the corner office behind her. But first, she and David had a lot more talking to do. Maya woke up at 5:30 a.m., 2 hours before her usual alarm. She had barely slept, her mind racing through possible scenarios for what the day would bring. David was already awake beside her, staring at the ceiling with the same expression of nervous anticipation she felt churning in her stomach. "Ready for this?" he asked softly, turning to face her in the dim morning light. "No," Maya replied honestly, "but I don't think anyone could be ready for a day like today." They moved through their morning routine with unusual quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Maya chose her outfit carefully, a sharp navy blue suit that made her feel confident and professional, paired with the pearl earrings her grandmother had given her for luck. She wanted to look like someone who belonged in any room she entered. David left for work 30 minutes before Maya, as they had agreed the night before. They couldn't arrive together, not today. The optics would be too complicated to explain. Maya would drive herself and enter through the main lobby like any other employee, while David used the executive entrance for his final preparations before the announcement. The drive to Sterling Financial felt different today. Maya had made this trip hundreds of times, but now every familiar landmark seemed charged with new meaning. The company's gleaming tower rose before her like a mountain she was about to climb, and she wasn't sure if she would reach the summit or fall trying. Maya parked in her usual spot and walked through the lobby, nodding to the security guard who had greeted her every morning for 2 years. Everything looked the same, but everything felt different. In a few hours, everyone in this building would know that she was married to their new CEO. Her life would never be private again. The elevator ride to the 15th floor seemed endless. When the doors opened, Maya stepped into her department and immediately sensed that something had changed. Conversations stopped when she appeared, and she caught several people looking at her with expressions she couldn't quite read. Did they already know? Had word somehow leaked? Sarah hurried over to her desk as Maya was settling in for the morning. "Maya, thank goodness you're here. I heard about what happened in yesterday's board meeting. Are you okay?" Maya looked at her friend with surprise. "How did you hear about it?" Sarah glanced around nervously. "Harrison was bragging about it to some people after you left. He was saying that the board had finally put an end to all the politically correct nonsense in our marketing strategy." Sarah's voice was tight with anger. "I wanted to punch him." Maya felt her heart sink. So it wasn't her imagination or oversensitivity. Harrison had deliberately humiliated her and was proud of it. The knowledge made her stomach turn. But it also strengthened her resolve for what was coming. "I appreciate you telling me," Maya said quietly. "But Sarah, you should know that things are about to change around here. In about an hour, there's going to be an all-hands meeting. You'll understand everything then." Sarah looked puzzled but nodded. "Okay. Are you sure you're all right? You seem different today." Maya managed a small smile. "I'm nervous, but I think things are going to be okay." The next hour crawled by with agonizing slowness. Maya tried to focus on her work, responding to emails and reviewing campaign performance metrics, but her attention kept wandering to the clock on her computer screen. At 9:45, employees began making their way to the large conference room on the 20th floor, where company-wide meetings were held. Maya joined the stream of people heading for the elevators. She found herself surrounded by colleagues she had worked with for 2 years, people who had no idea that their world was about to shift dramatically. Harrison was standing near the elevator bank, holding court with several other department heads. When he saw Maya approaching, his expression turned smug. "Well, well," Harrison said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "If it isn't our diversity expert. I hope you've learned something valuable from yesterday's meeting, Ms. Johnson." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but before she could respond, the elevator arrived. She stepped inside without acknowledging Harrison's comment, but she could feel his satisfaction radiating behind her. He thought he had won. He thought he had put her in her place permanently. The 20th floor conference room was already packed when Maya arrived. She found a seat near the back, preferring to observe rather than be observed. The room buzzed with speculation about what the meeting would cover. Some people thought it might be about quarterly results. Others wondered if there might be layoffs or reorganization. At exactly 10 a.m., the room fell silent as the executive team filed in from a side door. Maya recognized most of the faces: board members who had been in yesterday's humiliating meeting, senior VPs, department heads. And then David walked in. A murmur went through the room. Many employees had never seen the new CEO in person. David moved with quiet confidence to the podium at the front of the room, his presence commanding immediate attention. Maya felt a surge of pride watching him, even as her nerves continued to flutter. "Good morning, everyone," David said, his voice carrying clearly through the room. "I know there's been a lot of speculation about leadership changes at Sterling Financial, so I wanted to address you directly and share my vision for our company's future. David launched into a polished presentation about his background, his experience in financial services, and his commitment to maintaining Sterling Financial's reputation for excellence while driving innovation and growth. Maya found herself impressed by his command of the room, the way he made eye contact with people throughout the audience, the confidence in his voice. Now, David continued, I want to talk about some changes we'll be implementing to ensure that Sterling Financial remains competitive in today's market. These changes will touch every department and every level of our organization. Maya's pulse quickened. This was it. First, David said, we're going to significantly expand our commitment to diversity and inclusion. This isn't about political correctness or checking boxes. It's about recognizing that diverse perspectives lead to better decision-making, more innovative solutions, and stronger connections with our increasingly diverse client base. Maya watched as several board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Harrison's face had gone pale. I've reviewed our current diversity statistics, David continued, and frankly, they're not where they need to be. We have talented people throughout this organization whose voices haven't been heard, whose ideas haven't been given proper consideration. That ends now. The room was completely silent. Maya could see employees glancing at each other, trying to gauge reactions. This was clearly not the speech they had expected from a new CEO. I've also reviewed some recent presentation materials and board meeting minutes, David said, his gaze sweeping across the front row where the board members sat. I've seen examples of innovative thinking being dismissed not because the ideas lacked merit, but because they challenged comfortable assumptions about who our customers are and what they want. Maya's heart began to race. Was he talking about her presentation? Specifically, David continued, I've seen a comprehensive diversity marketing initiative that was rejected yesterday by our board. I've reviewed this proposal extensively, and I'm implementing it immediately as company policy. A collective gasp went through the room. Maya felt as though the floor had dropped out from under her. In the front row, Harrison looked like he was about to be sick. The employee who developed this initiative demonstrated exactly the kind of forward-thinking, data-driven approach we need more of at Sterling Financial, David said. Maya Johnson, would you please stand up? Maya felt every eye in the room turn toward her. Her legs felt weak as she slowly stood, her heart hammering so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people tried to understand why a mid-level marketing employee was being singled out by the CEO. Ms. Johnson's diversity marketing proposal isn't just innovative, David continued, it's profitable. Her analysis shows potential revenue increases of 15 to 20% from underserved market segments. The campaign strategies she developed could position Sterling Financial as a leader in inclusive financial services. Maya remained standing, overwhelmed by the public recognition, but also terrified of what was coming next. She could see Harrison staring at her with a mixture of shock and fury. Now, David said, there's something else I need to share with all of you. Ms. Johnson isn't just a talented employee and innovative thinker. She's also my wife. The silence in the room was deafening. Maya watched as understanding dawned on faces throughout the audience. Some people looked shocked, others confused, still others angry or suspicious. I want to be completely transparent about this relationship and what it means, David continued. Maya has been working at Sterling Financial for 2 years, long before I was even considered for this position. Every success she has achieved, every contribution she has made, has been based entirely on her own merit and hard work. She didn't get her job because of me, and she won't keep it because of me. Maya felt tears threatening, but forced herself to maintain composure. David was handling this better than she had dared to hope. However, David said, the fact that Maya and I are married means that we have to be extra careful about managing any potential conflicts of interest. Maya will continue to report through the normal chain of command in her department. Any performance evaluations, promotions, or other career decisions will be handled by her direct supervisors and HR with appropriate oversight to ensure fairness. David paused, letting his words sink in. Maya, you can sit down now. Thank you. Maya sank into her chair, her legs no longer able to support her. Around her, she could hear whispered conversations starting up, people trying to process what they had just learned. I know this is a lot to take in, David said to the room, but I want to be clear about my expectations going forward. Excellence will be rewarded regardless of who you are or where you come from. Good ideas will be implemented based on their merit, not on whether they align with traditional thinking, and discrimination or bias of any kind will not be tolerated. David's voice grew firmer. I've already begun reviewing our hiring practices, our promotion criteria, and our company culture. Some of you may find these changes challenging. Some of you may decide that Sterling Financial is no longer the right fit for you. That's your choice. But for those who stay, I expect full commitment to building a company that reflects the diversity of the communities we serve. The meeting continued for another 20 minutes as David outlined other policy changes and answered questions from the audience. But Maya barely heard any of it. She was too overwhelmed by what had just happened, too shocked by the public support David had given her, too nervous about what the aftermath would bring. When the meeting finally ended, people filed out slowly, most of them talking in hushed, urgent tones. Maya remained in her seat, unsure of what to do next. Several colleagues approached her with congratulations and expressions of support, but she could also see others avoiding eye contact, their faces showing disapproval or suspicion. Sarah made her way through the crowd to Maya's side. I don't know whether to say congratulations or offer my condolences, she said with a shaky laugh. This is insane, Maya. How long have you known? I found out last night, Maya said quietly. Sarah, I had no idea this was going to happen. Any of it. Sarah squeezed her arm supportively. For what it's worth, I think your diversity marketing ideas are brilliant. And if it took marrying the CEO to get them implemented, then maybe that's what this company needed. As the room emptied out, Maya saw Harrison approaching. His face was red and his jaw was clenched with barely contained anger. Quite a performance, Harrison said when he reached her. I hope you're proud of yourself. Maya stood up, drawing herself to her full height. Actually, I am proud of myself. I'm proud of the work I've done, the ideas I've developed, and the results I've delivered. None of that has anything to do with who I'm married to. Really? Harrison sneered. Because it seems awfully convenient that your husband suddenly appears to implement policies that you've been pushing. Don't think people won't figure out what's really going on here. What's really going on, Maya said, her voice growing stronger, is that this company is finally going to start living up to its potential instead of being held back by people who are afraid of change. Harrison stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. You may have won this round, but don't think this is over. There are a lot of people here who won't accept being lectured about diversity by someone who slept her way to influence. Maya felt a flash of rage so intense it surprised her. Mr. Harrison, I would be very careful about making accusations you can't prove, especially since your own conduct yesterday has already been documented and reviewed. Harrison's face went even redder. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Maya said calmly, that perhaps you should focus more on improving your own professional behavior and less on questioning mine. With that, Maya gathered her things and walked away, leaving Harrison standing alone in the now empty conference room. She had no idea where the confidence to stand up to him had come from, but it felt amazing. The rest of the day passed in a blur of reactions from colleagues. Some people were supportive and excited about the changes David had announced. Others were clearly upset about the new direction the company was taking. Maya tried to focus on her work, but it was difficult with people constantly stopping by her desk to ask questions or offer opinions about the morning's revelations. Late in the afternoon, Maya received an email from David asking if she could meet him in his office at 6 p.m. after most employees had gone home. She spent the last hour of the workday nervously anticipating the conversation, wondering if he had regrets about how public he had made their relationship. At 6 p.m., Maya took the elevator to the executive floor for the first time since starting work at Sterling Financial. The CEO's office was impressive, a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city. David was sitting behind a massive mahogany desk, but he stood and came around to greet her when she walked in. "How are you holding up?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. "I feel like I've been through a tornado," Maya admitted. "This morning feels like it happened a week ago." David gestured for her to sit on the couch in the seating area of his office while he took the chair across from her. "I've been getting feedback all day about the meeting. Most of it has been positive, but I know there's been some pushback too." Maya nodded. "Harrison cornered me afterward. He wasn't happy." "I'm not surprised," David said grimly. "I've been reviewing his personnel file this afternoon. There have been several complaints about his management style over the years, particularly from employees of color and women. The previous leadership apparently chose to overlook these issues." "And now?" Maya asked. "Now he's on notice. Any further incidents and he's gone." David leaned forward. "Maya, I want to make sure you feel comfortable coming to me if you experience any retaliation or hostility because of today's announcement." Maya considered this. "I appreciate that, but I also don't want people to think I'm running to my husband every time someone looks at me sideways. I need to be able to handle the normal workplace politics myself." "You're right," David agreed. "But harassment isn't normal workplace politics. Promise me you'll speak up if things cross that line." "I promise," Maya said. "David, can I ask you something? Do you think we made the right choice? Going public like this, taking such a strong stand on diversity? I'm worried about the backlash, both for the company and for us personally." David was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. "I think we made the only choice we could make and still be able to look at ourselves in the mirror. Maya, this company has been operating the same way for decades. The old boys network, the dismissive attitude toward anyone who doesn't fit the traditional mold. It's not just wrong, it's unsustainable. Companies that don't adapt to changing demographics and perspectives get left behind." Maya nodded, appreciating his conviction. "I just hope we can pull it off. Changing a corporate culture isn't easy." "No, it's not," David agreed. "But we don't have to do it alone." Today's announcement was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, we'll be implementing new training programs, revising hiring and promotion policies, and creating accountability measures for managers at every level. Maya felt a surge of excitement despite her nervousness. "And my diversity marketing initiative?" David smiled. "Already approved and funded. I want you to lead the implementation team. You'll have a budget of $2 million for the first year and direct access to external consultants and focus groups." Maya stared at him. $2 million? David, that's incredible. But are you sure people won't see this as favoritism? "The budget is based on projected ROI from your business case," David said. "And you won't be the only one getting new resources. We're investing heavily in several areas that have been underfunded. The difference is, your proposal was already fully developed and ready to implement." Maya leaned back on the couch, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the opportunity. For 2 years, she had dreamed of having the resources and support to truly test her ideas. Now it was happening, but under circumstances she never could have imagined. "There's something else," David said. "I want to offer you a promotion, marketing director, with responsibility for all diversity and inclusion marketing initiatives across the company." Maya's eyes widened. David, no. Absolutely not. That's exactly the kind of thing that will make people think I only got ahead because of our marriage. Even if you're the most qualified person for the job? David asked. Maya, you've been developing diversity marketing strategies for this company longer than anyone else. You understand our clients, our challenges, and our opportunities. Who else would I give this responsibility to? Maya shook her head firmly. Find someone else to give the title to, at least for now. Let me prove myself with the initiative first. If it succeeds, if the results speak for themselves, then maybe we can revisit the promotion conversation. David looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded. Okay, but I want you to know that you've earned this opportunity through your work, not through our relationship. I know, Maya said softly, and I appreciate you saying that. But I also need everyone else to know it. The only way that happens is if I earn it publicly, in a way that no one can question. David smiled. You're wiser than I am. I was so eager to correct the injustices you faced that I wasn't thinking about the long-term implications. Maya stood up, suddenly feeling lighter than she had all day. We're both learning as we go. This situation is unprecedented for both of us. As Maya prepared to leave David's office, she paused at the door. David? Thank you for believing in my ideas, for having the courage to take a stand, for putting yourself and your career on the line for what's right. David came over and kissed her forehead gently. Thank you for being patient with me when I kept secrets. And thank you for being brave enough to stay and fight instead of running away from a difficult situation. Maya smiled. Well, someone has to keep you honest. And besides, I'm curious to see what we can accomplish together. As Maya left the executive floor and headed home, she reflected on everything that had changed in the past 24 hours. Yesterday morning, she had been a frustrated employee struggling to be heard in a hostile environment. Tonight, she was the wife of the CEO and the leader of a major company initiative, with the resources and support to finally implement her vision. It wasn't going to be easy. There would be continued resistance from people like Harrison, skepticism from colleagues who questioned her motives, and constant scrutiny of every decision she made. But for the first time since starting work at Sterling Financial, Maya felt hopeful about the future. She had spent her entire career proving that she belonged in rooms where people like her weren't welcome. Now, finally, she might have the chance to change who was invited into those rooms in the first place. And that possibility made all the challenges ahead seem worth fighting for.